proposals. Advanced Work Zone Services. Centerline Supply. Action Safety Supply Company.
Move they be tabulated and returned.
Second. Is that all of them, or is that one for this one?
One more.
You done?
That would just be for message boards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a motion and second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Then the last one.
Yes, number 7 is an opening for a high pressure sewer. We received 2 bids. Power line. River City Hydraulics, Inc. And that concludes the bid opening for that item.
I know the town of Luther will be happy to get that, so motion that they be tabulated and returned.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then you have one recommendation.
Yes, next item is a recommendation for lawn maintenance supplies, CW 25031-1. We received 2 proposals from Madison Turk Farms and Site One Landscape. Upon tabulation of the bids, they each bid on different line items. I am recommending award to the lowest per line item, Madison Turk Farms for sod, Site One Landscape for some of the other supplies listed.
Motion that we accept the recommendation of the purchasing agent.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 And finally, we have a traffic sign printer laminator requested by District 3, P25930-05. We received 1 bid for this item, and from feedback from the end users and talking to the district, we are recommending award to Centerline Supply in the amount of $49,415.
Motion to accept the recommendation of purchasing agent.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Kelly, you want to go ahead and do that, and we'll resume our agenda after you're finished? Do we need to do it now? Okay. Okay, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Kelly Work, and my address is 105 North Hudson, Suite 304, Oklahoma City. And I am appearing before you this morning in connection with a school lease revenue bond project for the Dove Charter Public School Foundation, Inc., and also on behalf of Equitable Facilities Fund, Inc., which is a Delaware non-stock corporation that is a 501c3 public charity. This particular school bond financing is a little bit unusual. It's different from what you all have ordinarily seen. This actually is utilizing a national conduit issuer, that is the Arizona Industrial Development Authority, that has authority to finance projects in multiple jurisdictions. The Dove Public Charter School Foundation, Inc. has applied to Equitable Facilities Fund, Inc., and then Equitable Facilities Fund, Inc. will be the borrower in connection with the issuance by the Arizona Industrial Development Authority. And with me today, and I'll ask him to come forward in a moment, is Mark Julian, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Dove Charter Schools, and he'll provide you with some more information about the specific projects that the funding from this financing would permit the Dove Charter Schools to do. It is the financing would provide the funding for renovation and furnishing and construction at the Dove Schools campuses located in Oklahoma County, and also there are a number of them in Tulsa County. So this similar process, it will be done in Tulsa County as well. The reason why it's necessary for us to request this resolution from you all as the Board of County Commissioners for Oklahoma County is that under the Internal Revenue Code, for any bond issuance for a 501c3 organization, as this one is, there has to be a public hearing and the opportunity for the public to comment on the proposed facilities in each jurisdiction where there are facilities that will be funded from the financing. So because Dove Charter Schools has 5 locations in Oklahoma County and a number of locations in Tulsa County, it's necessary for us to have this, it's referred to as, and you all may be familiar with the term, it's referred to as a TEFRA hearing. So what we are requesting with this resolution this morning is for you all as the board to authorize the conduct of the TEFRA hearing. Notice will be published to the public, advising them of this hearing, which will be held on December 19th is our current plan at the downtown public library. And interested persons are invited to come and offer comment or ask questions about the proposed project. Because the project team is hoping to get the matter concluded before the end of the year, we actually plan to request to be back on your agenda for your meeting on the 20th of December. So we would be reporting back to you on the 19th following the TEFRA hearing that morning. We'll have a court reporter present. And so we'll have a transcript made that we will be able to make available to you all ahead of that meeting on the 20th. But the approval, again, that we're seeking today would be solely so that we can hold the required TEFRA hearing, which must be done in each county, each jurisdiction where there are facilities. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be back in front of you. This obligation, of course, is not, there's no warranty or guarantee or pledge by Oklahoma County. The bond holders, of course, will have to look solely to the project to be repaid, but this is a required step under the Internal Revenue Code that we must get authorization to conduct this public hearing and then report back regarding the results of that hearing. So that's the plan, and let me ask Mr. Julian to please step forward, and he can give you more information about the plans for the campuses of Dove Charter Schools.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Mark Julian. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Dove Schools in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And I'm here to answer any questions you have about these projects that we have planned in both North and South Oklahoma City. Dove School started in 2000 as a charter school that focused on STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, character education, and college prep. Due to wait lists and community demand, we've expanded beyond our initial schools in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Now we serve 5 campuses in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County, and 3 schools in Tulsa with a statewide virtual program. This project, these 2 projects that we're looking for in Oklahoma County, will allow us to add pre-K through 12 in North Oklahoma City and pre-K through 12 in South Oklahoma City. We currently offer pre-K through 8 in the North and pre-K through 8 in the South, with 9 through 12 centrally located. It's become a burden for our parents to try to get their students from far south to
District 3 wanted to,
Yeah, Commissioner, if you'll indulge me, item 35 is one of those moments where we get to celebrate the accomplishments of an individual inside of our districts. Coach Cowherd, Mr. Shane Cowherd, is coach at Edmond Memorial, has been for 26 years or so. He's a veteran of the high school, college basketball. He's been the USA Today Coach of the Year. He's had numerous athletes go to the pros, all-staters, numerous state championships. But Paul, if you'd come forward and read the resolution, and then Representative Osborne, if you want to come up right after Mr. Foster and read your state legislature resolution, that'd be great.
This is a resolution honoring Coach Shane Cowherd for earning the most wins in Edmond Public Schools history. Whereas Coach Shane Cowherd has devoted an extraordinary number of years to the service and success of Edmond Public Schools, exemplifying leadership, sportsmanship, and a deep commitment to the development of student athletes. And whereas through his tireless dedication and exceptional coaching abilities, Coach Cowherd has earned the distinction of achieving the most wins in Edmond Public Schools history, setting a new benchmark for excellence in the district's athletic program. And whereas Coach Cowherd's impact on the Edmond community extends beyond the scoreboard, having shaped the lives of countless student athletes, instilling in them values of discipline, teamwork, perseverance, and integrity. And whereas Coach Cowherd's unwavering commitment to his athletes has earned him the respect and admiration of his peers, students, and families, creating a legacy of success and mentorship that will continue to inspire future generations of Edmond Public Schools athletes. Now therefore be it resolved that Oklahoma County Board of County Commissioners recognizes and celebrates the exceptional achievement of Coach Shane Cowherd, extending our deepest gratitude for his outstanding contributions to Edmond Public Schools, and congratulating him for his remarkable accomplishments and securing the most wins in Edmond Public Schools history. And be it finally resolved that this resolution be entered into the official records of Oklahoma County, and that a copy be presented to Coach Cowherd in recognition of his unparalleled dedication and success.
Representative?
Well, thank you all for having me today. Honestly, well, first of all, I wore my maroon and gray in your honor today. I'm proud to be here today. Thank you all for having me join you. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it says pretty much the same thing that one just said. But I do want to read one line in here because I think it encapsulates Coach Cowherd. Coach Cowherd, he has coached my children. He has taught my kids. Unfortunately, none of them made it to the pros. But they are all better for it. They all have loved Coach, and I just want to read this last line on this one because I think it really encapsulates what Coach Cowherd's about. It says, whereas Coach Cowherd believes so much that education has the power to change lives, and that he has dedicated his life to coaching, teaching, and mentoring young people, and advocating for public education in the public square. Now, therefore, pursuant to the motion of Representative Mike Osborne, the state legislature extends Coach Cowherd sincere congratulations and directs that this citation be presented. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Coach.
I'll make the motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Do you want to say anything, Coach? The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I would say this. I would like to acknowledge the fact that I very much appreciate the opportunity to be recognized for my student athlete successes. It's really their successes, but I would also like to acknowledge the fact that the average public school teacher has more wins in a single day than I have had in a basketball career, and I would be remiss without making sure that that was acknowledged. We have a tremendous asset here in our state with our public educators, and they do a fantastic job. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And with those words, now you see why it's so great. All right.
Photograph?
Yeah, let's take a picture.
All right, 1 second. 1, 2, 3.
We didn't even talk about one of his most impressive accomplishments, and that's being married for 24 years and having 3 children. So it's good stuff.
Okay, if there's no other special request, we'll go back to the regular agenda, which was the consent docket.
Motion to approve consent.
Well, we've got some
Individuals.
strikes, I think.
Okay.
Uh,
Withdrawal.
If we could strike from the consent docket, item 28 and 29, there's some discrepancy between the agenda language, the resolution, and actually the intended funds that these are to address. My understanding is it won't impede any ability to do work, and we'll correct them and have them for the next meeting. So move the consent item less items 28 and 29.
And those are just the rec officers for special. Okay. Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, District 1.
Yes, thank you. Items 32 and 33 are both special projects with school districts. The first one is with the Choctaw and Tacoma Park Public Schools. They've requested some assistance with a driveway project to help with traffic flow. Item 33 is with the Middale Schools. This is at Epperly Heights to help with some parking there. As we did our meetings with the city of Del City, this is an area that came up with them that they would like to see addressed. So we're going to take care of that
Excellent.
with your approval.
Which is
So-
also the site of the largest Shine Garden, incidentally. And a lot of community people come out there for that. And I've recognized parking is an issue. So,
So I'll move 32 and 33.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Our 34 is the annual publications list. Is there any changes? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We've done 35, District 3, 36.
36 is just our annual Center for Employment Opportunities. It's what we use for instead of inmate labor. So motion to approve contract. Now this, so everybody's aware, this contract is for the entire county. We utilize it. I'm not sure who else I think Monroe was utilizing it for a little while, but others can utilize this. So
Are you liking it? Because we had stopped and for a while and there were
no,
problems.
it's been absolutely incredible for us. Similar to the way that we had envisioned it in the beginning, being able to run these individuals out in front of our mowers. We're not tearing up equipment. We're marking our pedestals, our boxes. They're there in bad weather and good weather, and they're helping us do snow and ice removal. They do all of our guardrails. I mean, we have had 0 issues with them thus far, and it's been absolutely incredible. So I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have Carol Knight to speak to us on item 37.
Good morning. My name is Carol Knight. I have concerns with the contract with TEEM. The new contract requires that they give you the documents showing the failure to appear numbers. Doesn't seem that anybody really knows about the failure to appear numbers. In October, I also want to discuss open records. In October the 27th or 22nd, and then September the 20th, I left an open records request with the county clerk for the information about who all has been sent to TEEM. Our concerns are that Chris Steele has claimed a 97% success rate. We'd like to verify that. He claims that TEAM's pretrial release program had no other entity advocating for releases. We'd like to verify that. He also claimed that the TEAM pretrial release program can operate more effectively, more cost effectively than the previous Oklahoma County conditional release program. He's asking for more money. So we'd like to verify that. So the reason that I'm here today is because I have left open records requests with the county clerk on 2 occasions. And so I'm here today to ask you to accept copies of those requests that I've made. And then I'm here to ask you to ask Chris Steele and TEAM to honor the open records request. He's received a substantial amount of money from the county, and I think he owes it to the people to make sure that that money is being spent correctly.
Was TEAM presented the open records request or just the county clerk?
The county clerk tells me that they sent the request to TEAM.
Okay,
Okay, and so that's why it went through Ms. Treat's office.
I see.
One of the things that we know about the failure to appears, we get the only statistical that we can get is through the arraignment docket. We go through the arraignment docket every day. We know that 57% of ORs are failing to appear in court. 57%. So that's not a 97% success rate of 57%. Now, in all fairness, that could include other ORs that are given. But I'd like the ability to go through these records and know that you're spending $1.2 million of taxpayer money effectively. If you're going to, my understanding is literally break the county's bank to pay for this contract and go over and take money out of the jail, someone needs to be making sure that the money is being well spent. And I'd like an opportunity to do that, but I'm being ignored. So I'd like to present these open records to you. I brought copies, should anyone want one.
Thank you.
My time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to us. Okay, so on the item 37, yesterday the BET exhaustively discussed this for another time and it came to a draw, so it was a 4-4 vote. And Cody said you had some things you wanted to share with us about this.
Well, I had an opportunity to visit with Mr. Steele yesterday, and told him that I had not been able to reach a determination on this. I obviously can't participate in the budget board in the process for the funds. However, as I recall, it was expressed to us that this would not create an additional burden on the county's budget. I think due to the nature in which this came together, kind of a rushed process, we were inadvertently probably overlooked some of the things that Mr. Steele and his team, or team being team as in basketball team, could or couldn't do as it relates to the process of pretrial release, thus forcing us to continue to fund some positions in-house. That in turn, with I guess some of the discussions that were held where the provider would essentially access the same budget as court services has us looking at a budgetary hole in this current fiscal year for their funding their contract. We're paying for an employee with the DA's office. We're paying for 3 employees at the jail to run NCICs. And then initially, I think the board entered into a year-long contract for approximately $1.3 million That was later amended to a 6-month contract because it was discovered we didn't have the funds to encumber the full amount. And that wasn't necessarily due to a budget shortfall. That was due to the fact that as we put this program together, we had to go about entering into MOUs with other entities in order to provide the necessary information to the judiciary, the DA, public defender's office, and ultimately to TEEM. So that's the contract itself. Now, some of the things that I visited with Chris about yesterday, in addition to the money side, was there are some things in the contract that was initially passed and is before the board today, or will be before the board at some point, where the language is a little bit different than some of the contracts that we have with our standard contract providers. And so I'd just like to get that language inserted in there. It really doesn't have any overall impact on the services provided, but it clears up things like workers' comp insurance, other insurance and liability issues that we normally require of our providers. And so that's more cleanup language. So that's where District 1 is at as of today.
Have you run those past the DA for the contract suggestions?
I have not yet.
Because we enlisted them to draw up the contract and
Well, I will say that the suggested amendments are language that typically the DA has signed off on in other contracts with other outside providers. But once we have some clarity, I will certainly do that.
So I noticed on this contract, likewise, there was a bunch of things, some of the things that, I mean, this contract's different than the one that we approved for the previous 6 months. Doesn't talk about invoicing. So I'm assuming that it's just a one-time payment. I noticed that there wasn't an encumbrance attached. So even if we did approve this today,
well,
we can
that's,
do payments. We
that'd
could do
be-
it pending upon
yeah.
on encumbrance.
I think we were looking for BT to help identify where we were gonna draw the money from.
And it's, there's Cody. Cody, did y'all recess? What did y'all come up with? I understand there's a 280 that your office found, and then can you give us a synopsis of what you're looking at?
We're looking at coming back tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So kind of stalemated on whether there was going to be additional funds allocated for this particular project. Don't know where we are, other than right now there has not been a recommendation put forth for additional money on this contract.
Okay. Sitting on a jail trust, I understand the importance of this contract. It's very important that these services are done by somebody. And I would ask you to figure it out quickly. We've got, 20 days? I think today's the 11th. So we got some time, and we've got some time to correct the contract. I think the contracts need measurables, reporting that needs to come back to us. I understand that he reports, and even Grant reported to court advisory board. They're, again, advisory to us. It's us three, or two and Joe, that are on the hook for any decision that's made. So just as I've been concerned with, our healthcare and the things that we're doing at the jail, this concerns me. And we have to be responsible with what we're doing with the taxpayer dollars. And we should be doing this for less. Usually when we go out to an outside contractor, we can get it done for less. But thanks, I think it was Brandy. Brandy found 280 that was appropriated to court services or something. I don't know exactly what those details are.
That was
just the
already
benefits.
Yeah, we took care of that months ago. The money just wasn't moved. So there's two issues. BET is looking at the funding piece. The other pieces that you had mentioned are more policy driven as it relates to the terms and conditions of the contract. BET is not necessarily involved in that piece. Joe and I spent, 3 hours yesterday morning cleaning up what we think needs to be fixed on the contract, adding language, taking stuff away to make it clear, concise, and have the teeth that it needs to have, just like some of our other contracts. So I think it's two separate issues. BET, I think the issue that we're having isn't necessarily finding money. We can look in different pots to locate funds. The issue is we have elected officials that have positions of, okay, we'll give extra funding for this overall project, or some have been of the opinion that we are not willing to allocate a penny more to this overall project than what was budgeted at the beginning of the fiscal year. So if we can't get past that hurdle of elected officials, at least 5 in our group that represent their elected official, that are willing to allocate any additional funds, then finding the funds is futile.
Well, I spoke with the court clerk yesterday and who seconded the motion on the Court Services Advisory Council, which was passed unanimously, that asked us to please fund and approve this contract, and wondered why his designee voted no yesterday. And he said that was a mistake and that when you reconvene tomorrow, the court clerk will be a yes. So if the other 4 stay a yes, then I think we have the 5 to get us past this impasse. It's just a question of, like you said, where.
Which was why we had elected to go ahead and recess instead of adjourn, to give an opportunity
And I
for
appreciate that.
individuals to have conversations with their elected official.
I do want to raise some, there's a high likelihood that I may or may not be here, and I certainly won't be the one sitting up here casting the votes. That is ultimately up to whoever fills this seat, whether or not any of us are retained. However, everyone needs to understand that when TEEM was told your budget is $1.3 million, that the general fund budget for court services was approximately $1.1 million. And a portion of that 1.3 is non-recurring funds or reoccurring funds. And so going forward, if we continue to have MOUs with the jail trust, or even if we bring it back in-house, and we have to continue to have an MOU with the DA's office, and we've drained down those 2 other accounts, there is going to be an expense to the county that is greater than there is today. And I think that's one of the things that at least I've asked Cody to look at. I've talked to Mr. Still about that. I understand the position he was put in. But there's the fee fund. And of course, because the Court Services Advisory Board has recommended in the contract, I think, that we entered into, says they'll follow recommended standards and practices. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but the collection of fees is against that best practice. That in and of itself is going to create an issue down the line. And so I think Cody's right. Could we find the money today?
Oh, I have no doubt that we can find it.
Possibly. And Miles, I agree with what you said. This is very much needed. But
We're going to that point, we're going to spend money one way or the other. I'd like to spend the least amount.
Mhm.
If we start putting these individuals back in the jail, I know the jail trust will come over here and ask for more money.
That's my
And that's
point.
going to be a whole lot more expensive over there than this is. Now,
And we can also, just to your point on that, point out every single time we have a cost change. I mean, we get cost changes on everything up and down the line, most notably the jail. So it's no new thing that we're having somebody bring us something that costs more than originally thought. I understand what you're saying about the point of the contract, but right today, we've got to do something. We don't have a place in-house to do it today. I mean, if we just default on this contract and bring it in-house, there wouldn't be somebody to do it. So we can argue this in the upcoming budget season, which is just around the corner as we start planning for the next year's fiscal budget, but we got to do something.
I agree with that. I mean, we certainly do. This is not the contract. Without a doubt, the payment, the way the services on the payments are different than what he's currently doing. He's invoicing us and we're currently paying off of that. The metrics, the reportable metrics, I'd like to see some of that added. I mean, to the public's questions.
Well, I think
What-
they're
what are those
provided in the Court
things?
Services Advisory Council. So I mean, we had a lengthy discussion about failure to appear at this last meeting, as a matter of fact.
It just seems that there's, yes, the failure to appear when I spoke with Mr. Steele in Mr. Stein's office. I think his number was about 19%. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I think it was 19%. They're saying 57%. There's a discrepancy there. What is it? What's our reporting? Who are we reporting on? Like Ms. Knight said, some of those may not be participants with TEAM. They may just be ORs. I've also noticed that the number of our conditional bonds have gone way up and our ORs have gone down. Now, typically what has happened in the past with ORs, those are individuals that we didn't have to pay to monitor or anything. With the conditional bond going up,
But I think that's a change of the district attorney.
well,
I don't think,
the
I mean, she
judges-
explained that a little bit in the meeting. Our meeting lasted 2 hours. So for people who want to say about transparency, it's on YouTube. You can go watch. There's a lengthy discussion.
that meeting.
And if you want to have a reoccurring item on our agenda, similar to the way the assessor wants the jail trust to come over here so that you get carbon copied on what the advisory council's getting, we can do it. If you want a verbatim, it's about an hour regularly. It was 2 hours this time. So it would greatly expand this meeting. But I think all of this stuff is happening. It's just happening in that room across the hall, which anybody's welcome to attend or watch later on YouTube. Mr. Steele.
Thank you. I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds, but thank you for letting me respond. I just want to be clear, statutorily, we are required to file a quarterly report containing all of our file, and we have to report. We want that accountability. I just want the county commissioners to know that our most recent quarterly report was filed both with the court clerk's office and with Judge Ogden. That's who we were instructed by the advisory court to file our quarterly report with. I will email you the quarterly report just as quick as I sit down. But there's full transparency in every one of our matrix. We've been as transparent as we possibly know how to be. And we filed those reports publicly in the places that we were instructed to report. And Mr. Chair, if I may, just very quickly, I want to respond to the public's comment. There are issues about disclosing who is on the conditional bond to just through an open records request because of risk of targeting that individual and risking that individual's public safety. We have been instructed by the district attorney's office that we are not subject to the open records request as it was presented to us in the format through the office. We can give the statistics all day long. We can give, and we will I mean, we're as transparent as we can. But when it comes to names and personal identification information, we can't give that because of what we were instructed because of the jeopardy of the safety of the individual.
Also, every meeting at Court Services Board, which our chairwoman is here, if you have additional questions of requests you'd like to make of her, and the treasurer who just walked in is also on the board. The team representative has always said, tell us how you want this. If there's they have offered, and Judge Stoner contributes some thought a lot about how he wants the printout to look like and what the data is, and they ask all those questions. But you'll often see me not really contribute to the conversation because it's not my wheelhouse. You know, I don't know the lingo and I don't work inside the court system a lot. And so that's why the advisory council, I think, is mostly Ben, who's been supervising this department, both when it was in-house and now that it's contracted, because it's just their day-to-day operations.
Yes, sir. And to all the commissioners, if there is information that's not contained in the quarterly report that we are statutorily required and have been directed to file, if there's additional information that you all would want, or if you would want us to also present the report directly to you, we're happy to accommodate whatever the request is.
I think that, I could be mistaken. I think there's been a couple different versions of contract, but I thought that language where you all would provide a quarterly report was in the current contract already to the board. So
Okay, yes, we're happy to do it. We asked when we filed the reports, who do we file these to? And what we were told is the court clerk and the presiding district judge. But we'll include you.
yeah, I
100%.
think if I understood you, that's the statutory mechanism that you have to follow. But I think the contract was written in such a way that you would also provide quarterly reports to the board.
Love to do that.
Yeah.
Love to do that.
And I'm not asking for you to come up here and present it right here.
No, I
but
understand.
Submitting those numbers, because I mean, you're already in an open meeting providing those things, but
Yes, sir.
submitting them to the board members would be, is what I'm interested in.
You got it. It'll be done before noon today.
And it sounds like, Commissioner Davidson, you may have some things that you'd like to see in the next 6-month contract. Those are a little different than the changes that Cody and I have looked at. That's just making as I said, the contract more standard with what we've done with other providers. You know, I told Cody, had asked him to relay that I know that this is such an important issue, and even with the Christmas holiday coming up, that because it's so important, we were certainly willing to call extra meetings of BET. I know that you all would be willing to have extra meetings of the board as necessary, and that the budget board members would be willing to do the same thing. What my concern is I've tried to lay out about the impact on the budgets going forward. We can deal with it this year. Making sure everyone understands that as it's currently constructed, there's going to be an ongoing expense above what is typical when you have an increase year to year, right? And so my concern is that we rush here and perhaps we repeat some of the mistakes that we had made earlier. We have the time to correct it. And, you know, there's also the option of until things can be resolved that we could, and Chris expressed the difficulty this might present him because his budget year is different than us, that we could do a month to month as well.
Well, as for this rush statement, you know, your office is the chair of BET, and you've known for 6 months that we've had a 6-month contract. So we're here at the last minute. Collectively, we can all take some responsibility for
my
that.
office didn't tell Mr. Still that he had $1.3 million to spend either.
But you knew this contract was expiring, did you not?
And I've been looking at it.
Okay, but I mean, here at the last minute to throw this, that we're just doing all this in haste, I mean, we've all got a role to play in that.
I think it's the responsible thing to do is to discuss the issues and open so that everyone understands.
Which we could have started months ago.
I think,
Commissioner, this item has been on BET before yesterday. We've had a conversation. I do chair that committee, but I am one vote. Only one vote.
I said collectively.
Well, I know, but you mentioned that we chair.
I know,
District
but I
one
mean,
chairs.
you're aware that this has been coming up at the end. It's your office that's saying that we're doing this in haste. I'm saying if you were feeling like it was so rushed, you could have.
I think taking action today would be in haste. What I said was the initial development, because we didn't fully recognize where the expenditures would be. I'm not making that up.
I know, but we didn't know what these things were going to be until we were faced with it. I mean, things changed along the way. District attorney and the public defender led the transition team, and then they came to us with these things, and we dealt with them as they came along.
And the recommendation, or at least the inference was that this would cost the county no more than what it was costing us to have our own court services department. And it would potentially save us money. And I'm not saying in the long run, it may not. It may, but in the short term, it is going to cost us some more money. And if everyone is on board with that and understands that, then that's great. But I don't know that everyone has fully recognized that having 3 separate MOUs to do what we used to do in the house for $1.3 million is now roughly $1.5 to $1.6 million. And so trying to address some of those budgetary issues is my concern, as well as making sure that we're getting people out of jail. And to Miles's point, if there are people that were previously receiving ORs, and I'm no expert in this either, where that level of supervision I think is minimal, you might get contacted and reminded of a court date versus conditions.
Which we spent money on a program to do that. Mike, one of the things that I'd like to look at, and I know that the public defenders here and can speak to this, is actually putting a PSA into the contract so we can start assessing these individuals and which ones need to be in OR, which ones need to be conditional bond, which ones actually need our help with TEEM versus going after small business and cutting bondsmen and everybody else out. I mean, we have a system that works to that point. We can sit up here and we can argue. This has to be resolved. We are going to spend the money one way or the other. I am for getting something done. We will need to keep addressing this before the next FY and keep working on this. And I don't think this is one of those things that ever stops being worked on. It's a living, breathing thing that as we learn more and more, we need to be able to move this contract. I do not like this contract, and I think this contract puts the county, in a bad way. I don't think Aaron probably saw this contract, if I were guessing, because there's a bunch of things in here I would
She
probably
approved
say.
it.
Did you approve this contract? For legality.
But Lisa drafted it.
Okay. Interesting.
That's what I was saying about things that you guys want to offer and put in. We just worked with the DA's office. Ms. Bahana's been directly involved in this also.
Oh, yeah. No, she was in our meeting, and again, this has to be done. We will get this done. We have 20 days to get this done. I will sit here and do special meetings until I'm blue in the face to get this done, because I know the way that this impacts the jail, and I know the way that this can impact our bottom line. We are probably going to pay more for this program this year than we have in the past. But I will tell you, if we don't do a program as this or something, we will pay a whole lot more by putting the 700 plus that are on supervision back inside the jail. I mean, you're looking at a cost just to book them in at 210 for the first day, 150 per second, and then 65 for every subsequent day that they're in there. So average stay being 5 to 7, I'd much rather give money to somebody to manage this and manage it correctly and get something done versus putting them back in jail.
Miles, I don't disagree with you. I just want to have the best contract, the best position for the county possible. And I told Mr. Still yesterday evening that we would continue to look at the issue. And I've asked Cody to look at it, a couple other possible funding issues, options. So it's not like we're not trying. But we are wanting to point out and make sure that everyone understands, and I think you do, that we're going to, at least in the short term, be spending $200,000 to $300,000 more per year for this program.
Yeah,
So,
and I get, a lot of times there's an upfront investment to save money on the back. I don't know if we are going to save money eventually on the back end. I do know that this, compared to what we put in and what their cost is inside a jail, not only with our tax receipts and everything else, that cost is much greater than the $200,000 or $300,000 that I'm going to have to spend here, because we were told it was going to come in about the same or less and save us money. So wearing the two hats function is an interesting function, jail trust and then here. The other part of this is that if we are deadlocked at budget board, we as the body politic for the county have to understand that we will have to take a strong stance to do something and sign a contract essentially telling the budget board to figure it out. I'm not to that point yet, but I could be. We have to figure this out.
Well, again, in talking with the court clerk, hopefully that's not
Yeah.
necessary.
And if you want to recess this meeting until after, or if you want to call, I forget what our,
Well, if you're not going to approve this contract, if you both have issues with this contract,
yeah, I can't vote for this contract. I'll say
then
that.
there's no point in recess in this meeting because something else altogether is going to have to be put on there.
I
You could
will
always
send my,
resubmit a different contract.
I will send my suggested contract amendments to Erin. That way she has them. Commissioner Davidson, if you want to send your suggestions up, and Erin can incorporate those in, and then we can all perhaps get a draft to take a look at. And be in a position, should the budget board or the BET make a recommendation to budget board, or budget board even determine, absent a recommendation, they have that ability, to fund this contract at the amount that was contemplated originally, or some other amount, less or more, or then, I'm certainly, as you said, willing to sit here, meet.
Well, I mean, if you're wanting to do it for a different amount, is that what you're saying? I mean, you're not going to vote for an increase?
Well, I don't know, depending on what changes and how Commissioner Davidson may want to see billing done, if there are billing rates that are applicable to the level of services offered, it may take care of itself. I don't.
Well, my point is if we both funnel into the, or if you two both funnel into the DA, I mean, do you just ultimately need to put one contract on that you're liking and you put one contract on that you like?
No, I mean, that's.
Because what is she gonna do? She's gonna say it's a policy decision
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All day long.
about it.
No,
So I
I'm-
don't know what good it'll do to submit things to her that are conflicting.
No,
You
I
just
think
asked
the
me
best thing
earlier
to do would
today
be
if I submitted my suggested language to the DA. That's what I'm going to do, so that she can incorporate it into a draft. I'm not asking her to weigh in on policy.
Well, but it's a policy choice to go with one way or the other. Aaron, am I wrong? I mean, if you get conflicting things, or would you just have a preference of how you would prefer that we handle this?
Is there anything that would preclude us from just passing around a contract?
A lot there. Let me say, if I were to receive proposed contract language from one or more of the commissioner's offices, you're correct, I don't make policy decisions. I would just put all of it into the same document. The only way to avoid doing something like that is if you either in this meeting, a policy and governance meeting, some other meeting, were to decide amongst yourselves those policy decisions, and then the final contract is drafted in accordance with those policy decisions.
That's what I thought.
Mr. Steele, people are being monitored. Services have not been cut. They won't be curtailed until after December 31st, and you don't have a contract, correct?
That's correct. We're currently providing services and we're on budget. We're on course to expend our first 6 months of the contract that we are signed for this 6 months by December 31st.
As a former legislator, you've gone right up to the last minute with budgets, trying to do the responsible thing. I'm asking for a little bit of leeway here to give us the opportunity to do the responsible thing. Let us vet out our individual issues. We have to have a program, without a doubt. Again, I'll say it, I've said it 3 times before. This will cost us more not to have it than it will to have it,
Yes, sir.
because we will put them inside the jail.
Yes, sir.
I am going to vote to do this program. I want to change some of the contractual language and get it right and protect you, protect the county. I mean, there's things inside, there's typical protections for the county that aren't in this contract that I kind of find odd. They're not even in the contract that you signed previously. So I would be more in line to do the previous contract than I am with this contract. So, I mean, this one was rushed enough to where we have misspellings of papoose and all sorts of things through the contract. So
Since he's here, I don't want to speak for the court clerk. I did a while ago because I've shared your thoughts, but do you care to set it for your own record?
As far as our support for the team support, you will have it. The reason the vote was no yesterday, in the morning, I was in a lot of meetings and I instructed Rick that we felt part of the money, or maybe all the money, was going to come from the jail trust, that they were setting a certain amount of dollars, and we felt they would contribute since this would be a positive thing for them, keeping people out of the county jail. And so our support for team is there. Our vote tomorrow, if you meet again for team, of course, they're not the vote, I am, will be yes, we will support team. And it'll be tomorrow when they meet, we'll say yes. Yesterday, without the money from the jail, he didn't have the right to say yes. So he took the no stance, but we'll correct that. And tomorrow when the vote happens, we will support team. We have to have them. We have to keep people out of that county jail. We have to do the right thing. We have to save the money we can save. And so the court clerk's office will support this.
Thank you. Ms. Biffle, is there anything you wanted to say? I don't know that there's a whole lot else to cover, but didn't want to.
Just briefly in regards to the point Mr. Davidson made about the public safety assessment, there was verbiage in the contract that team agrees to adhere to best practices for pretrial release and will use an evidence-based and validated pretrial risk assessment tool. The Court Services Advisory Board did vote to have team move forward with a public safety assessment. That's something we've been trying to do for years. There was upfront cost with training for team, and so they've been working on that. It will take around 6 months to implement, but we will see a lot of savings from that because right now no one is on those OR conditions. That public safety assessment will tell us who needs more supervision and who doesn't. Without that, the district attorney didn't feel comfortable letting people out without conditions, but that tool will save all those resources that now are being spent for people to have analysis, urine analysis, all of those things, treatment, all of that. So that is where we will see a lot of the savings. We just obviously need team to be funded. They were given a budget. They said, they worked within that 1.3 budget and drew everything out. And so the Court Service Advisory Board wanted them to be fully funded because we can't have 700 people out and go to a month-to-month contract because obviously no one can get out of jail if we don't know there's going to be pretrial services the following month.
agreed. And that's part of that, the $20 fee and some of the monitoring fees. Those are fees that we were collecting before, but we're not collecting now. We're just going ahead and paying for them out of this contract. So
Which I think amounted to
that's-
$41,000. So, I mean,
So-
it is a loss, but it's not the difference.
No, not at all. It'd be hard to make up that difference with $20.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but I think it was 41,000. It was something like that. Any other questions? Is there a motion on this? Are we leaving it that we're going to ask the Policy and Governance Committee to come in and hash this out, or you want to come back in here and just do it with us?
I wasn't clear. Aaron, can I pass a contract to the other commissioners so they can see the contract? Or let me ask this, can Chris Steele pass a contract to each commissioner that he proposes?
I mean, obviously, the Open Meetings Act prohibits communications regarding county business amongst the commissioners. So I can't say that you would be allowed to pass a contract amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Um,
So you'd have to be our pivot point.
Well, are you asking, can you do it up here on the horseshoe during an open meeting, or?
No, I was just going to.
I thought
have
that's what you
Joe
meant.
No, I was trying to do this in a more expeditious manner than going to policy and governance and just adding another level of bureaucracy and red tape. But who chairs policy and governance nowadays?
Ms. Clayton.
Jessica, when is your next meeting? So not quick enough.
It'd have to be a special.
Yeah.
I
What is
just,
that,
I
48?
mean, but do you know in specifics what you want to charge them to do? It sounds like you do. You have specifics in mind.
Yeah. So,
But do you?
yeah. Well,
Because I don't want them just to get together and stare at each other and say, what does your bosses want? And then have,
that's why I'd rather skip it. So, yes. There seems to be enough PSA language. I would like the PSA attached and what it is and so on and so forth to that contract, but that's all right. There sounds like they're probably 6 months on before having something like that.
May I ask a question, either of the public defender or Mr. Still? Under the old way that we were doing this, I believe, I could be mistaken, that there was an evaluation of sorts that Mr. Ravitz had done. And we had several conversations, I think, about moving towards some type of standardized, validated tool over a number of years, and it didn't get any traction. So are you continuing to use that tool that was developed, I think, by Mr. Ravitz, or are we just foregoing that tool and now everyone is going to conditions?
So the public safety assessment was talked about for a large amount of time. I believe that's the team went to several conferences and did a lot of work to see what tool was most used across the United States. We wanted one that didn't take into account, we didn't want people who were indigent to be punished. The current public safety assessment that we've looked at does get a score. It takes failure to appears, it takes criminal history, misdemeanors, and felonies, and so it takes all of those items. I know Mr. Ravitz had looked into that at one point. I don't know if that was the specific tool, but I think that's the one that's most used and that the district attorney and everyone feels comfortable with for public safety. And so that is the tool that we've been working on getting implemented, and mostly it uses the criminal history. And what was the second part of the question?
I understand where you're headed, but in the past, we had used basically an in-house risk assessment tool. And I'm gathering from the conversation today that we've quit using that, awaiting moving to this new tool, and generally everyone is going to conditional release, as opposed to where in the past, that in-house tool may have allowed some to be released on an OR. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, I will say with the current system, the jail is taking around 4 to 5 days to get the district attorney's office NCICs. I'm not sure when court services did it all in-house. I think they would do a cursory review, and so they would kind of go to the judges without taking it to the district attorney. They would take the criminal history to the judges, and the judges would okay that person for an OR bond. Because of this switch to TEAM, how the district attorney wanted to do it is she did want to make sure they saw all the NCIC's criminal history. And so
That's-
it's just taking
Well, that's a
longer.
statutory requirement, I think, for pretrial release.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
just taking longer to get those because
But
court
that wasn't
services did it
happening before.
in-house. So now those things are taking around 4 or 5 days to get to TEAM, and we're taking a little bit to get to those. So we can't get anybody OR'd out automatically how they were before because we're waiting on the NCICs, if that makes sense.
And that's an administrative change from a new district attorney in terms of this is something we didn't used to have to do.
Correct. Before it went straight to the judges, and the district attorney wanted to know that their office put their stamp of approval for public safety on all of that. So it's taking additional time.
That's what I was saying. There are parts about this that we're not wholly in control of. There's different, judges have some deal, the district attorney has some deal.
Yes.
I would
so,
agree with that statement, that the county, I'm not gonna count me as part of that. You all are in control of. There are decisions made that have ramifications on the budget. And communication, I think, is vital, so.
And they do when they start denying, the previous DA wanted to deny a bunch that we were trying to get out on medical ORs, and that had a financial impact to the county. It was a decision beyond our control.
Yeah. Still is. Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, we're not the ones that public defender, DA, court clerk, us, none of us are the ones that get individuals out of jail. That's gotta be signed off on by the judge. So,
If I may, I was just going to mention from an efficiency standpoint to try to, get this passed through as fast as possible. If you guys did want to send it to policy and governance, of course, we're 48 hours out from being able to call a special. The agenda language here isn't specific related to contract language. It's just passing an amended contract. So this board could recess and come back, and then y'all could discuss potential language changes to the contract, banter that back and forth, and come to a decision in whenever you come back from recess. Or you could even banter the language back and forth, recess again until you're able to come back with a final contract. But that would allow you to not have to keep reposting and waiting 48 hours. It's just a suggestion.
Do you know what you want in this contract right now? Can we just do it now?
do you have a proposed contract? I'm willing to forego my stuff because my stuff is going to be more procedural that I'm gonna work with Bridget and Chris and everybody else to move forward.
I believe that, and I'd have to go back and look because, as Cody said, we spent a considerable amount of time yesterday morning just looking at some of the contract language. I didn't even attempt to address some of the concerns with billing the way I think you want to. I did mention to Mr. Steele last night that perhaps we could do some different language in a future contract to tighten some of those things up. So I think I'm very close to having, again, as I said, most of the recommended changes we're going to have deal with typical language that we require of other vendors when we enter into a contract for service with them. So I could have that fairly quickly. Now, there was one issue, and I visited with Mr. Steele last night about that. TEAM was running a pretrial release program. It's recognized in the contract that they were doing that since 2017. They were funding that, and I say they, knowing that you were utilizing donor dollars, I believe. And the initial contract, when we entered into the initial contract with that, the funding that Mr. Steele was receiving approximately half of that went away for the program that he was using. He's continuing to receive some funding for services. Am I getting that right? But the money that he was using to fund positions has essentially been shifted all onto the county. My hope was that we could have language that would, as we've done with others, require them to continue to fund at a certain level. I told Mr. Steele last night, I understand the position that he's in relative to his budget, that I would make a change in the language to just reflect continued funding for the service side of things.
Can
Whether
we
or not he's amenable.
require from us to make private donors give to a government function? I mean, it's great if we get the benefit of that, but I don't know that we can contractually put in there a demand that they contribute private funds. The fact is that we've been lucky to have private philanthropy help and assist you with your efforts that came alongside of us before we actually contracted with you. If not, the county would have either A, been not providing for those, or two, taken on this burden a long time ago. I just think that's audacious to try to demand that we're going to have private funding for us. I mean, I don't even know that that's legal that we put that in a contract. It'd be my question to the district attorney, which I'm sure she's not prepared to answer right now.
And Chris doesn't have to agree to it. That's just a suggestion in order to try to minimize some of the cost for a program that was billed as being the same or cheaper to the county. Right. No one has to agree to it. It's just a thought.
But you've got two commissioners right now saying we're ready to go with something. You've got something you want to produce? Because maybe it's a moot point. Are you ready to make a motion on something? Okay.
You don't have the funds available to enter into this contract.
Well, it's
today.
pending encumbrance like we do all the time when we don't have it.
Well,
correct?
Right. I recognize that I can be outvoted. If that is your wish.
Well, I don't know. I'm asking.
I mean, there's nothing for us to vote on except for this contract that's currently in front of us. And this contract that's currently in front of us,
Well, you said you were
possibly cannot agree to.
Okay, well, you said you were going to forego some stuff, but I didn't
Yes.
know if you believe that under this agenda item, or what Cody believes, is that we can come back now or later and do something. So if you want to shove something in, shove it in now. Let's just get on with it.
If there's a contract for us to shove it into, have you looked at this contract? We can't responsibly go into this contract.
Well, your issue is about
There's
the monthly
impending
versus a
service.
one-time pay.
That's fine.
Okay.
I think that.
Well, I'm trying to walk through this and speak
I think that's
specifics, not
something-
generics.
I think that's something that's gonna be an easy thing. I think, again.
I mean, I'm sure we can just
liability-
ask him right here if you'd be willing to monthly invoice, if that's the holdup.
Yes, sir. That's
Yeah,
what we're doing currently.
It's
Yeah,
what
it's
they do.
currently monthly invoice. However, the contract
Let's
language
do
is it's
this.
a flat rate. So I'm not good at math. Say it's a $1,200 contract. It's a flat rate. We're just giving them $1,000 a month according to the contract. That's the way the billables work in the contract today. What I thought I heard Commissioner Davidson say was, and Chris, I haven't seen your invoice. You may be providing additional details beyond that.
It's very I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't.
No, please.
Our invoice is very detailed. And the budget that we have submitted, that we're trying to just get the second half of the funding for, has categories of what has been approved. Part of those categories include everything from software, our management information system, to, staff and labor, incentives, all the different things. And when we send our invoice, what we have expended for that month, and we're just getting reimbursed for the services that are rendered, they include exactly what we have, what we utilize.
But at the end of the day, you're even though your invoice is detailed, you're just receiving 1/6 of what the initial contract was monthly. Is that correct?
It fluctuates a little bit. So for example, when we had to, we made a larger investment on the front end for some of our technology infrastructure, our MIS infrastructure. So that month, the invoice was more than the following month because we didn't have that reoccurring expense, but we had accounted for that total expense in the budget. It just came, more of that particular budget item came in month one versus month 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, and so on and so forth. So it's not an exact ratio per month.
All right, thank you.
Is there a way to, when Court Services Advisory Board recommended be fully funded, we just wanted the contract to have the language saying the $675,457.47, which was the initial amount. As Chris stated, bus passes, we get those for 2 for 1, so those are all bought at a certain time. So we just want the invoices to total that $675,000 amount. Is there a way to approve that amount and then work out the details of, obviously the invoices will just add up to that amount? I think what Court Services just wanted to know that it was fully funded for the original amount.
I understand.
I know there was some language about insurance liability, those things, and I think TEAM is more than willing to accept those. Those are in most of the other contracts, so I think all of those can be amendments that are done to the contract. I think the main purpose is just that amount being fully funded.
You have thought about that?
Chris and I talked about those types of changes excuse me, that Ms. Biffle just discussed as well. And I mean, we can have those pretty quick. The issue is the money and where ultimately budget board wants to be on this. And then
And I think technically, that paragraph that's supposed to be the purpose of the amendment, I believe
that's incorrect as well. Yeah.
Yes, I believe that could be completely stricken out.
Our suggested language would address that clarification as well. Yeah.
Recess this meeting until after we've done every other thing. Recess this meeting until tomorrow after BET, when the court clerk's vote would be in support. That gives Joe time to bring an amended contract of which they're talking about and which Chris Steele, if he agrees upon, we can vote upon that. They can enter that into the record and we can move on and everybody will know that we're trying to do what's right. The only thing that bothers me about any of this is the open record stuff. I'm not asking, and I don't, let me rephrase that. They're not asking for names. They're just asking for numbers. And the best I can tell.
Well, that's probably something that goes to you.
Numbers. I was on that email where Mr. Steele questioned, and I think because it was a private entity, they couldn't, they weren't subject to the open records request, is what I believe the email stated, but I can get that information. But we can provide any.
I figured once they took public money, they were.
Just
Well, I
Commissioner
think
Davidson, so you're suggesting come back tomorrow after BET. I just want to make sure, Aaron, the agenda language as it's worded, it's a contract with TEAM for pretrial services. So long as we don't go over the amount that's listed in the agenda, I can bring a floor substitute, if you will. Okay.
There you go.
All right, what time tomorrow? Just because I know parties that are interested in here are going to want to know. We'll vote later, but
Cody, what time's BET?
Sharon thinks it's 11:30. You think it's at 11?
Well, we can call the county clerks. Just make it. Make it for 1:30 then, and because
1:30 is
the human rain delay is
works.
in that meeting. So at the end of this, at the conclusion of this meeting, we can do that.
Okay,
And that way, there's resolution and everybody
can move on.
move on.
Okay, so we'll just go on to item 38. Stacy?
This is a contract between the board and Cadell Company for the fifth floor remodel for the court clerk under the ARPA program. It's $3,058,731. Came in under the budget, so we're in pretty good shape on this project, and we'd recommend approval.
I'll move the item.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 39 is a division order for your oil royalties on a well that's in District 3 in the Edmond area.
What are we getting? Do you know?
I'm not sure the amount.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we've already dealt with 40. Eric?
The first item is a letter that we received from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board on a temporary groundwater permit that's located in District 1. The permit was originally obtained back in the 70s. Now that there's been a study of the Garber-Wellington aquifer, they have placed conditions on that permit. So now it's become a permanent permit with the conditions. So it's more just to notify Oklahoma County and the Board of County Commissioners of what those restrictions are.
Okay.
So do we have to do anything to this, or are they just notifying us?
Or just notifying us. I just wanted to make sure, since this permit was so old, I didn't know who was still aware of it being around. We do a yearly submittal to Oklahoma Water Resources Board as far as water that's pulled out of there. No one is using any water from that water right at this time. So just to make sure that everybody is aware that it's there if you ever want to use it and what the restrictions are.
The biggest change is they limited how much we could take out of there.
Right, how much we could take out of there, if there was other water uses around it, how it's restricted, that type of thing.
Guess it's not a problem right now.
No, it is not.
Okay. Do we need to move to receive that, or is that just public notice being on the agenda?
It's on the.
Okay.
Need to receive it. It's on the agenda.
42.
That is the, we want to update our code from the 2015 International Building Code and the 2014 National Electric Code to the 2018 IBC and the 2020 NEC. Basically, it's just keeping up with technology as stuff moves forward, for one. The other thing that it does is it gets us out of some conflicts with the Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission when it comes to fire reviews in regards to commercial projects, so that we're on the same page they are. This would become effective January 1st of this coming year.
Is this the most recent, 2018?
That is what OUBCC is currently on.
Okay.
So we're just getting in line with them. It's probably, to be honest, something we should have done a while back. But it really wasn't an issue until we took on the responsibility of being the fire marshal.
Yep. Okay. Motion to accept the UBC for unincorporated areas of Oklahoma County.
It's to receive.
Well, you have to receive the document because it wasn't attached initially.
Yeah.
That's your motion.
Motion to receive the document.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Previous motion on the floor.
You got
You,
that?
you move
To
the item
adopt
itself.
the
Okay,
UBC,
yes, a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Eric. Jessica.
Morning. Number 43 is discussion possible action regarding ARPA subrecipient agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and SISU Youth Services for the amount of $375,000 for their transitional apartments for unhoused youth project. Just need approval for the subrecipient agreement.
I'd move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 44 is a contract renewal between the Oklahoma County Board of County Commissioners and the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services not to exceed $2,452,676. Nikki's here. if you have any questions.
There are,
Good morning, Commissioners.
good morning, there are changes contemplated, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
In the Department of Mental Health,
They were presented to P&G, and I presented them to ODMH.
they've already seen them, okay. All
Yes,
right,
sir.
that was my only question. Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 45 is an ARPA subrecipient agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and Peaceful Family Solutions, amount not to exceed $14,847.41 for their Spanning the Gap project.
Joe, I believe, is this a district one?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
move approval, please.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 46 is an ARPA beneficiary agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and Blue Jay Acquisition LLC, agreement not to exceed $200,000 for their violence reduction initiative.
This is a District 3 initiative, so I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 47, there was a little misunderstanding in regards to the agenda language initially submitted, and then this one was supposed to be in addition to it as a separate item. But in policy and governance, we discussed the need of a records retention policy. And our recommendation, which will come in another meeting on the 20th, was in order to provide $105,000 towards Iron Mountain and the project in regards to funding a record retention policy for the county. Number 47 is the actual agreement between Iron Mountain. It's under a state contract, and so it does not need a ARPA subrecipient agreement, but it would be in order to use ARPA Fund 1415. And there is a requisition and PO attached for $94,944.14 to be able to move forward with the contract and providing the service. The agenda item that will come next week on the 20th would be the discussion in regards to the full amount of the 105. We had suggested doing that just in case there are any changes, and because we are asking them to travel here at the next policy and governance meeting in January in order to discuss further in person, and so that would cover some of their travel expenses. So I'm needing approval on the contract for $94,944.14 today.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Jessica.
Commissioners.
Treasurer, Mark. Thanks for your patience.
My pleasure. Item number 48 is just adding to our current resolution that for the people that are authorized to do transactions on behalf of the Oklahoma County Treasurer's Office, we're adding Stacy Rogers to that list.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry I had to wait along for such a short item. District 1,
Oh, thank you.
3.
No, thank you.
Is there any new business? If not, can we go into executive session?
Motion recess.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
reports on the front page. Is there a motion to recess or return to regular session?
So moved.
All in
Sorry,
favor,
second.
say aye. Action on item 51.
Move that we would disclaim subject to any back taxes owed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No action on item 52. But do you want to defer this item until our recess?
Well, we wouldn't, this would just be on our normal agenda for next,
Okay.
since we recess this, it'll stay. And then if we need to defer it to the next meeting, we can. So motion to recess
Well,
until
any citizens to be heard? Okay, go ahead.
12:12 at 1:30 in this room.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. All right.
Now, are we going back to regular for the PBA or are we still down? Okay. Well, my screen froze.
I had to get out of mine completely.
Okay. Do you need to share? You want me to
No,
put it
go
in the
right
room?
ahead.
Ready? Okay, I'll call the PBA together. All three trustees are present. It is properly posted on December 10th. Is there approval of the minutes of December 2nd?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to approve our claims?
Motion to approve claims.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Departmental items, the cash fund appropriation. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4 and 5 are the report of fees.
Motion to receive report of fees.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 6 is for 1 parking space. No, 4. Excuse.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then we have this agreement with White and Associates. I didn't know if Keith was here. Here he is. Did you want to speak on this? Do you want to express some frustrations?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a,
$75 an hour
for who, me? I don't
for
think
us to
so.
listen to it.
Yeah.
Do I
Can you make
say
it
that?
175?
Item 7 is an agreement between the PBA and White and Associates for owner's representation for the exterior portion of the remodel of the Investors Capitol building. They are currently our representative for the interior that's being paid for with ARPA dollars. And this is a like item for the exterior of the project.
And how are you feeling about White and Associates? Don't want to say?
No, I'll say. I had hoped that Oklahoma County might have been benefited by additional oversight. And as it turns out, I think we're having to watch as well now. And that's just good business, but, and White in some cases, many cases is doing a good job for us, but there's some things that could be improved upon. And I'm sorry to have to voice this publicly, but I appreciate the work they do well. And I expect more from them when it comes to reviewing plans and overseeing projects. That's all I've got to say about that.
I'll volunteer to visit with him about those concerns. I wanted them as a matter of record. You found 3 instances now you've shared with me.
Mhm.
And
On the same project?
No, different projects.
Different projects?
Yeah.
One of them on this particular project being the fire suppression dedicated line.
Fire suppression in general, it came to our attention yesterday, and granted, Bill White called me to let me know and gave me the opportunity to weigh in. The architect of record did not include fire suppression in the plans that are to go to bid today that will be opened at 2 o'clock today, which presents a bit of a problem for us. I'm not sure how we'll navigate that. Again, we'll work with the architect, we'll work with the owner's rep, we'll work with the Lingo construction people in trying to determine a path forward. I've done some work on my own late last night with some of the fire suppression contractors that we have utilized in the past. So I have some numbers. The availability of contractors is difficult. The one that I used previously is completely unavailable for the next year. So I'm not sure what that means to us.
Keith, can I ask you, you expressed your dissatisfaction with White and Associates, at least
In these cases,
in this
yeah.
case.
Yeah, yeah.
But on this project itself, we hired an architect, and weren't they responsible? I get it that maybe White and Associates.
The answer is yes.
They're
You don't need to go on. The answer is
they're
yes.
ultimately responsible
Yes.
for this oversight.
Yes, and I have responded to them in, what some might consider a terse email. I've copied each of your offices on my response and my displeasure.
Seems like architects and
behalf.
ICB have been a tough go.
Architects on every project. I understand that their jobs are difficult, but
Is there on the contract, is there a errors and omissions clause?
yes, that comes with every architect's attempt. I don't know to what degree that could be called upon. I could anticipate additional costs and delays associated with this oversight. The interior portion of the investor's capital building, again, is to be paid with ARPA dollars. The fire suppression system lives in the inside of the building. So you not only have design timelines, but you have timelines to engage contractors to perform this.
Right.
So this is needless pressure that's been created here, in my view.
Okay, well, I'm still
And again,
happy
I'm sorry to interrupt, but again, I want to thank Bill White for the work that they have done that's been beneficial to us and beneficial to Oklahoma County. So there are just a number of instances here where there's a little disappointment. This is a huge oversight.
Again, I'm happy to visit with him. Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any citizens to speak before the PBA? Board comments or new business? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Yep.
No, you don't need that.